I would like to welcome Nemanja Krivokapić to the closing session of today on this stage. Nemanja, welcome.
Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to be here.
Nemanja, how's the energy? It's Friday afternoon. How was your week?
The week was very dynamic, and that atmosphere is still holding on, hopefully for the next hour or so, and then we can go to a deserved rest, everybody of course, and enjoy this weekend, hopefully without rain.
That sounds good. But even if it is with rain, we spend it, what do the Scandinavians say? There is no bad weather, there is only inadequate clothing.
That's a new one for me, but I already like it.
It comes from them. I was shocked in Stockholm a few winters ago, but it was winter, it was snowy, it was icy. A Stockholm friend took me into the middle of some park to see something, an exhibit from their history. I don't remember which one it was. And there were people doing their daily jogging. So we could hardly walk, like I was walking like a duck because it was so icy. But they had the crampons, the spikes on their running shoes so they could run in snow and ice. And I'm like, okay, you are really the right people to have this saying. Nemanja, you will be sharing a few of the internal secrets, insider information today, I understand, from the United Cloud, where you are a lead architect, where you helped them transform using the Agile methodology, where you helped them create a streaming platform that can really sustain and grow and develop a lot of users and huge demand. And with that being said, I give you the floor. You will have 30 minutes, and after that we are going to have a Q&A session. A Q&A session means audience, hint, you have to ask the Qs, the questions, and this is a hint for Nemanja. Yeah, you will have to answer those questions. So, Nemanja, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and it will be my pleasure to answer all the questions that come during this presentation. So, hello everybody. I'll just do the brief introduction. I'm Nemanja Krivokapić, system architect in United Cloud. What I wanted actually to achieve, because when I started preparing this presentation, the basic idea was, okay, let's give technical overview of the streaming, but the nature of the conference is such that actually what I wanted to address and what I want to give you is our experience with using Agile to grow, not only as a R&D center of the United Group in numbers, but also to grow with our customers. And then the basic idea here is that I'll give you the overview of the company and the domain, just to get an idea of the scale of operations that we are basically working with today, and also to get an idea where we were 5 years ago when the center was founded. And then I'll try to address the major challenges we saw during these 5 years, and then give you hints how we resolved those challenges. And of course, I welcome you all. Please ask questions, share your challenges, we can discuss. I'll try to use as much examples as possible. If something is not understandable or you need more clarifications, feel free. I'll be here after this presentation for the Q&A session, so that won't be a problem. So with that, we can start. Basically, here's the little background of the United Cloud, who we are and what we do. So we were founded in 2016 as the Research and Development Center of a United Group. And our first goal, let's say it that way, was to launch a completely new OTT IPTV platform, EON, in a year, which we managed to pull off. And we had a successful launch of our platform during 2017 year. Basically, what the EON is, for those of you who do not have it at your home or on your mobile phones, it's the OTT IPTV platform that incorporates, just think like Netflix, but also with linear television, or if I use term linear television, sorry for that. Basically with TV channels plus the VOD catalog where you can watch movies, series, listen to the radio, things like that. So that was our first goal during those initial year. And in 2017, we had the first deployment. And we were a rather small team of maybe 20 or 30 people all together. So management, developers, system administrators, DevOps, everybody. And today we grow to 5 independent deployments. So we have 5 different deployments of in different countries of our own application. And the entire video streaming part is running on 1,500 plus servers at this moment as we speak. So that can give you an idea where we were 5 years ago, where we are today. And you see that there has been several challenges that we had to address that we'll go through later on. To get a sense of a scale of operation, so basically this is what our system is working with every day, 24/7, 365 days a year. Is basically we have 1 million devices which we created, we developed, that our end users are using to access the platform. That's in their home, in their living rooms. So you can get a sense of how important it is to them to gather around in the evening after the working day, gather, watch the TV, watch the favorite movie or favorite TV channel, TV show. So we have millions of those devices. We have hundreds of thousands of concurrent sessions. So basically there is 100,000 of users who are watching different content on our platform at any given time. We have thousands of video assets. So this involves all kind of TV channels that you can access on our platform, plus all the movies, TV series, and other video assets that our platform handles. And when we translate this into like the network traffic, it's a terabit of data per second that are moving constantly inside our application between those 1,500 plus servers at any given time. And just to reiterate here, so it is 1,500 servers with 5 deployments at this moment. So this is where we are today. And I wanted to give you also a hint, what is streaming? What is that we do basically in the video streaming teams inside the United Cloud. So we are now talking, and basically I'm here in my living room making this speech, and we can imagine, of course, that this is a studio. So this is basically where the video and the audio is happening. And the goal of the video streaming platform is to deliver this audio and video to all of you on your devices that you are currently using to watch this presentation, okay? Same thing or very similar thing happens in television. So basically there are TV studios which are creating content. There's some TV show or a movie or whatever, but some video audio content that is being generated at this moment. And the job of our service is to distribute this content to all of our users on all of their devices at any given time. So basically it's up to the user when he wants to watch something. This means, and there's of course different solutions that you can utilize to achieve this. What we wanted to do, because we are R&D center and we want to go one step ahead of the industry, and we want to be those that are basically pushing the boundaries of the technology that is being possible. We decided not to basically integrate different vendors and then produce the platform, but basically we opted for creating the platform by ourselves for all our customers. So this means, as you can see here, that we have our own video processing pipeline that includes anything regarding the encoding and the packaging. So the basic video audio manipulations that needs to be done so that video and audio can be transmitted over different distribution channels. We have developed our own, we have our own encoder, we have our own packager, our own scrambler. Then we needed to, so that's, you can imagine one video as one encoder, okay? But in order to support the scale of operations that you just saw, you need much more servers and much more capacity to deliver that content to the audience. And then basically that is the second box that says CDN, or the content distribution network. We developed our own. So we have our own software that is basically in charge of delivering and distribution of the video audio assets all around the world to our customers. And then in the end, of course, none of this matters if our users cannot watch our content with the best possible experience. And that is the reason why we have also developed and are still developing all end user applications and also devices. So as you can see, the United Cloud video streaming platform is basically everything from ingesting the content, where ingest means just basically acquiring the content from the provider, through the encoding pipeline, over to the CDN, distribution of those data, delivery of the video audio content to the end user devices, and of course, playback of that content on end user devices when they want it. So this is what we do. This is when we are talking about video streaming inside the United Cloud, this is what we make. Basically, we are making this entire pipeline that has a lot of moving parts. It's a very challenging, very interesting, and also domain-specific implementation with all the caveats that comes with that. If we look at the technology stack that we basically are using today, it's Java, C++. We rely on the Kubernetes and, of course, Docker for the virtualization. We are heavily relying also on the FFmpeg for video audio processing pipelines. We are using Spring Boot technology stack. We are also using Python. We are relying on the Jenkins for our continuous integration and continuous deployment pipelines, Grafana and Prometheus for monitoring. So a plethora of technologies that we are basically binding inside a service that is now inside the software that is basically the engine of the video processing and video streaming on all EON devices. But that is where we are today, okay? If we take a look where we started like 5 years ago, this was it. So the video streaming at that moment was 2 or 3 people. And the technology stack that we used at that time was the pure Java 8 or Java 7 at that period, C++ and FFmpeg, and that was it. So if you imagine just 5 years ago, when we started developing the video streaming platform, that was it. You had 3 guys and girls and a girl, and this was our technology stack, okay? We did everything by ourselves. We tried to develop everything that we thought is necessary, and we had like one way of doing things, and it was working for us at that moment, and we stick to it. This is okay when you are small, when you have a small team of people who have knowledge in the domain, who have knowledge in the technology, and there's only 2 or 3 of you, so the process really of development is whatever you agree to do. It works, okay? But once you start, and now I'm talking from our experience, once you start growing, once you start hiring new people, the things become a little bit different. So I said hiring is easy part, and the quotes was here only because I did not want to offend any of the HR guys. I know how hard they work to basically meet all the new people and to basically hire new people for the development teams, and it's definitely a tough job. But if we say that, okay, we have people we need and they are hired, then starts the process or that me as a system architect together with the practice leads and the HR department and the agile department in our company, then starts our job, where we basically need to provide the onboarding. And when people say onboarding, a lot of us as onboarding, we understand, okay, there's the new guy, we need to show him where's the coffee maker, we need to give him his desk, his equipment, show him the code, and pretty much that's it. Then he'll start working on some tickets, get on the project, and everything will resolve by itself. And when you're working in video streaming, or basically in any, if you're working in a product company, which product is in a specific niche, you need to onboard developers to the domain, okay? So you can have the best possible programmer, software engineer. He needs to be onboarded on the domain. He needs to understand what is a video, what is the audio, how to manipulate with it, what we are doing, why we are doing some things the way we do. And one interesting thing about the video streaming is that when you start developing video streaming platform on a big scale, a lot of the technology is not open source. Of course, there are large players who have their proprietary technology that they basically sell. And then it becomes a tricky part that you basically can just Google it. You can Google a lot of stuff, but specifically for the video streaming domain, you need to make some kind of onboarding process inside your company, inside your team, so that new people can get onboarded on the domain as soon as possible. The next step is, okay, we'll teach them, we teach the domain, we share the knowledge about the domain. Now we need to onboard those people on the existing system. Again, from personal experience, if you have rather new system, which was from the start developed with CI/CD in mind, documentation in mind, monitoring in mind, unit testing, TDD, BDD, everything is great. Majority of the startups or the small companies that are basically trying to keep up with the industry and that are basically trying to get their products to be first, when they start, they don't have the luxury or at that moment the need to heavily invest into these processes. Why? Because everything is working. As I said, 2 or 3 guys, they agree what they're going to do on a daily that they don't even call a daily, but they call it the morning coffee, and they just do the job, right? But once you start growing, this becomes a bottleneck. Instead of your people delivering the value through the implementation of the feature or some improvements, they are struggling with understanding how the existing system works, what makes the existing systems. Third thing that comes to my mind when we are talking about scaling, rapid scaling, is the onboarding to development process. Okay, so 2 or 3 guys in a small team, they agree how to do, they agree how to build, they agree if they are going to use Git or not, they agree how they are going to do the code reviews. Are they even going to do code reviews? Do they need it? How they are going to debug? Everything is fluid and people agree on everything. As you scale, this becomes also the bottleneck. And then what I noticed is that if you do not address these 3 topics, you get the status quo, okay? So the new guy who comes to the company, he'll find what to do. He'll find some corner of the system that he'll learn better than the other. He'll stick to it. He'll try to mimic the behavior, of course, of the more senior members of the team. And when I say senior, it doesn't need to be somebody with a lot of years of experience. It's just a guy who came 2 months before you. So that leads to status quo. Basically, you have people who find a way, because the team always finds this dynamic. They'll always find a way how they are going to work. It's just a question, is it really the best possible? Well, I won't say best possible. I would rather say, is there a better way? Can they be more efficient? Can they be more innovative? Things like that. So that's one problem. The other problem that you basically have when you're scaling is how do you scale a technology. So if I'm writing something, or the two of us, we are writing something that at that moment is not near the scale it's going to run in 5 years, of course. And you're trying something new, you're innovating. You're basically just going by make it work, okay? You want to get there as soon as possible. You want to try your code, you want to try your solution, you want to fine tune it, to tweak it. And then again, when you're talking with the engineers, they want to build something by themselves. They want to build more optimal code, better code, things like that. So what happens is that you get, I call it, make it all in-house mentality. So basically, whatever we need, we can build. And that's great, but it has its own, let's say, downsides. Then what happens as you scale is that you get everyday challenges. What are everyday challenges? Well, it's all the requests that came by that you need to fix something, to deploy something, to tune something, to research, things like that. This starts creeping on team velocity. It starts creeping on the guys because they are trying to do everything that's been asked from them. But what happens is that we start, I call it running in circles, but basically there is no new breakthroughs. You do not get that organic breakthroughs and new initiatives, new ideas, because people get stuck basically in everyday work. Now, also what can happen is that we as engineers, we are pre-programmed to search for a perfect solution. We want the best possible code, optimized to the limit, clean code, fully tested. Everything needs to be perfect. And it needs to work in all the corner cases you can imagine. And if you can't imagine, then sleep over and you get the idea tomorrow of the new corner case that you're going to cover. So now, if you have this in mind, only these three topics, and you look at the industry is a very fast-paced video streaming industry, especially since the last 2 years and the COVID times, is evolving. If we talk about OTT, over the top services, you see that they evolve constantly, they innovate, they come with better video, better audio, multi-languages. A lot of trends are happening there. And then, of course, if you're looking at the television industry, broadcast industry, it's also moving forward. And it's changing, it's adopting, trying to stay in touch with the latest trends in the OTT, let's say that way. Why? Well, because when you had one TV or two TVs in your home and you had X amount of channels, your decision what to watch was you go channel up, channel down, channel up, channel down. You find something that is on air at that moment and you watch that. And it's in the control of the broadcast what you're going to watch. Okay, if he wants a commercial break or not, things like that, he controls it. What happens with these OTT services that exploded lately is that basically now you as a consumer, you have the option to basically pick what you want to watch and when. And the TV industry is following that. So a lot of changes are happening in the industry while we speak and in the last couple of years, and will keep changing in the future years, I'm guessing, that if you do not address these challenges from a technology standpoint, this is what is, for example, one of the things I watch, keep an eye every day, is as a system architect, how to address these. Can we be better? Because people are basically everything. You need people to be involved, to track the industry trends, to give new ideas, new perspectives. And I see my role and the role of my peers as the enablers. Basically, we are there to enable people to become better. to innovate more, to have the freedom to try and things like that. So on the one hand, you have a problem of scaling teams. On the other hand, you have the problem of scaling technology. You don't want to stop innovating. You don't want to stop producing new products. And if I look back in these 5 years, I'm glad and I'm really proud that United Cloud managed to scale in terms of the number of people and also scale in the technology. The shift is the best maybe described by those two slides, where on one slide you had 3 technology, on the next 5 years from there you have a lot more technologies that you want to build. You have much more people that are working on the product. So I'm really, with that, I'm really proud that we managed to scale both and they follow each other. Is it ideal? No. Can it be better? Absolutely yes. But when I started creating this presentation, when I saw the numbers and the technology, it came to my mind, hey, we have actually did a pretty good job with the scaling. Now that we have addressed the challenges, or at least the main challenges I can think of when we are talking about scaling, and not only scaling, like you have new product and then you scale organically, things like that. The thing with United Cloud is that we did not have the luxury to have a steady pace of growth. Basically, when we created EON, it was already a big platform, and then everything happened fast. You got another deployment, and you saw the numbers after only 5 years. So, and that's something that you need to follow. So on the next slide, how do we address them? And I put it here because whenever we speak of how to be better, there's somebody in a room who says inspect and adapt, and that's it. And I mean, basically, by its nature, that's it. There's no silver bullet. There's no ideal solution. There's not even the right answer. Okay, what works for one team maybe will not work for the other. So we need to constantly, especially system architects, practice leads, scrum masters, all of us, we need to constantly be on a lookout and find those spots that are basically creating the bottleneck for the people. Because sometimes, because they are so focused on the job at hand, those developers, the software engineers, they are not thinking about the process. They are thinking about the technical challenge. They are not thinking how to be better in terms of efficiency or what happened to me a lot is that when we do the recapitulation and the retrospective of some event, and when I ask, okay, what could we do? What could we have done differently? People have ideas. They know what we could have done better. If you ask them why not, why we haven't, or what needs to happen so that we implement those action items, a couple of times happened that it didn't cross our mind. At that moment, they had a technical challenge that they had to solve, and they focused on the technical challenge only, not at that moment analyzing. So that's what I see as a really big part of the job of all of us, and that's what I meant by enable them. We need to be those that are constantly doing inspect and adapt and working with the teams to make them better. So here are some of the situations, and I want to go through them, what we have learned, what needs to happen in order for us to be better, in order for us to be able to get over those challenges mentioned on previous slide. So you need to ask questions rather than give answers. And the first time I saw this, I said, no problem. All I need to do is go and ask questions. So I started asking questions, and only questions. It worked in some occasions, in others it didn't. Where was the issue? Yes, your first approach should be ask questions. Ask them, how can we be better? How can we change our process? Is there anything in our process that we don't have and we should have that would make your life easier? But more times than not, you can get the wall of silence. And I remember a couple of years ago when I encountered the wall of silence, I thought they are mad. They are focused on the technical challenges. They don't want to spend more time thinking about how we can change the process and process-related stuff. What I learned by talking to people and asking them, hey, is everything okay? Why we are all silent here? Is that they were either insecure to share, and we'll come to that later on, or they were clueless, which is perfectly fine. And that's maybe something that we can communicate more with the development teams. It's perfectly fine to be clueless, to not have an idea. We don't need 10 action items from each retrospective to be noted, okay? So it's perfectly fine to be clueless. What helped in those situations is, okay, can we see, do we align that we have an issue? That's the first question. Okay, do we all see the issue? If we all see the issue, fine, let's work on towards the solution. And this is maybe one of the hardest thing where you need to be careful. So you ask question once, twice, try different ways. Ultimately, if you see that nothing has changed or things are not changing, you need to give answers. And when I say answers, you need to push people out of the comfort zone. If we go back with the challenges, everyday job, spinning in circles, you need to be the one who is going to unlock the chain, push them out of the comfort zone. I always here share the situation I had a year ago with the engineers, where we discussed, we have some drawbacks with releasing in production. Basically, we wanted to shorten the time that our feature takes from development to production. And one of the topics was feature toggle. And I remember one guy was like, that it is not the best solution possible for the issue at hand. And then when we talked more about it, the question arises, okay, who did it? Who had experience with feature toggling? Or have we tried it on different projects? We haven't. We wanted to do it, or some of us wanted, we were discussing about it. And then that colleague, he said, fine, I'm gonna learn how to do it to prove that I'm right. And we were like, sure. What happened after 2 or 3 months, I believe, is that he was so invested in learning the feature toggle mechanisms and solutions and patterns that he became the advocate of the feature toggle. So that's what I say when you need to push. If they say no, find the reason why. Why not? Why not? What can be different? What is there to lose? Let's try. If they say, let's not do it because we don't know, fine, go and learn. I'll help you. Work with them, but be the one that is ready to push them out of the comfort zone. And then great things can happen. Encourage and listen to a new guy. They see you from a different perspective. So this is also interesting. When you are working in a fast-paced environment, development teams who are making a lot of code changes and delivery, and then you bring somebody new there, a couple of things can happen. You can tell this new guy, or showed him by example, this is the way we do it, this is our culture, this is our development process, this is our delivery process, that's how we do it, and you need to do it the same way, okay? That's what sometimes companies mean by onboarding. You know, I'm gonna teach you how to do this job in this company. There's one, I say the sweet spot of the after the first month or two, where that new guy is still in the culture from his previous position, wherever it was, and he is still analyzing and looking at the team, the company, the product, the technology from that perspective. Nobody in your company or in your team has that perspective because nobody was standing outside like a month ago, right? So we need to encourage those new guys to speak up. Is it on retrospective? Is it on lunch break, on coffee break, whatever? Encourage them, ask them for opinion. Ask them, okay, what do you think? This is what we have, this is how we do it. What do you think about? Is there anything that you would do differently? And always be on the lookout for those cues. Now, of course, there are things that are done differently in different teams for a reason. But whatever you do, ask. And if you manage to get the new guy to tell you his perspective, make sure he understands that you have received the information, that you have received what he has to say, that you can really take it into consideration. Because a couple of times we had a situation where the new guy was like, but why are you doing this in such a way when there is a faster way? And we were like, okay, show us. And then he showed you. And I mean, for some things it's easy. For some things it's like he showed you and you're like, sure, that's great. For other, it can be difficult, different approaches, different way of testing, different way of deployment, things like that. Encourage new people, always encourage new people to share their insight because they are bringing that experience from other companies that you can use to be better. Make it safe to fail. Now, a lot of companies use this phrase, safe to fail. And I'm really, really proud because as any service, software service company, we had our failures, we have incidents, server outages. It happens, even to the best of us. So when we say make it safe to fail, it means that there is no blame game. It's not the point. I'll share you my experience. So when we started growing and incidents happens, we reached out for the process. We said whoever got the incident, he needs to file the root cause analysis, okay? And what I noticed was that some people, they were not happy about it. They thought from their perspective that the root cause analysis is a blame game. You need to write down, not literally, but at least name of the team who did something that broke the system. What we manage or still managing to change, because all of this is ongoing process, this never stops, this never ends. If you want to keep scaling and you want to avoid bottlenecks, this is something that you need to do constantly. We changed it. We shared the idea, and that had to start from the top, that it's absolutely fine to fail. But an important but is if you use it as a learning opportunity. So for example, when there is an incident that happens, what we now practice to do is to get around, sit down and talk. Not talk what somebody else could do to prevent incident from happening, because the incident happened already. But for example, what could have we done differently? Could we monitor something that we missed? Could we create the alert that we missed? Could we make some document that we missed? Could we implement it in a different way with a different strategy in mind? Things like that. And once you start doing this and people actually see that it is safe to fail, what will happen is that the teams themselves are going to start and thinking about all the mechanisms while because they get the user story. they get functional requirement that something needs to be done. During the refinement, especially when your team scales a lot, and if you do not have teams with like high seniority in technology and also in domain, is that you don't get a lot of discussion of how things should be done. It's more like, okay, what needs to be done? Making sure that we understood what product, system architect, whoever is asking from us, let's deliver that. Once the team that had a couple of incidents and went through this process, they are starting to actually, during the refinement, think about what happened previously, and is it going to happen on the new feature, and how to address it. And basically that's the point. When we speak with the team and when we tell them, hey, the refinement is where you sit down and discuss all the topics that there are, that how you're going to do it, exchange ideas, that's great. But in order to really get them going and thinking about it, making it safe to fail is one thing where they can learn from their mistakes. Encouraging people to try something new. Again, and this one is related to spinning in circles. If everything is working for them or for us, so you have the feature requirements, team develop those features, the feature is fine, it works, it's aligned with the product request, everything. People get stuck again in the same technology loop. You need to encourage people to try something new. And what's really, what can happen is that the people who are the longest time with you usually get stuck in some jobs or some features that are maybe problematic, things like that. So they become more of a sustaining, let's call it that way. Those are the people in your company that has the biggest domain knowledge, the biggest technology knowledge at that moment of your system, and the biggest knowledge of the processes and the product. You need to encourage them, ask them, what do you need to try something new? If they don't know what they need, it is up to you. For example, from my experience, I call some of the more senior guys and girls and tell them, okay, we want to do this new technology. Can you please go and look out what needs to be done? Give them space, give them time. They are the people who are going to drive your innovation further. We that was there on the beginning, we are pushing the innovation, but somewhere along the line, as we scale, we lose the contact with the system itself on an everyday basis. Those people that are in your development teams for the longest time, they have the biggest contact and they can actually understand that system better than you.
And this is, Nemanja, this is the group of people that we absolutely want on our side, that we absolutely want to help us drive the change and carry out the yes. major things with us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Nemanja, do you happen to have more slides? I'm not sure, because we will need to be wrapping up. I think this has been exceptionally interesting, and I understand you will share the material perhaps with us, so the audience can also revisit them. Let's put it that way, and it will be anyways on YouTube. So would you have more slides, or would you like to give us like your conclusion, something that
I'll
should
just
really stick with us?
This slide mm-hmm. is the result.
Okay.
So as you also what was on the beginning. Here, this is the results what we have now. So we have domain workshop for new people, so that new people actually get onboarded on the domain. We have pair programming whenever we can, especially on the P0 incident, when we pair new people with the more experienced one. We have fully automated CI/CD. We have frequently asked questions for support team made by the development team. We have monitoring and alerting as a key requirement for all new features. We have 2 environments for the production hardware testing, a lab for developers to use. What's important here is that this was the output of a discussion with people. Nobody sit down and wrote it like from the head.
Mm-hmm. So this is real life takeaways, let's put it that way. Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you, Nemanja. Thank you so much. I think you can turn off your screen share so we get to see your pretty smile. As we start wrapping up this discussion of ours, and since you're the last session of day 2 of a 2-day conference, I think it will. I will also be then wrapping up the conference on the Agile Stage altogether. But before we do that, Nemanja, I understood you have a very peculiar hobby, and I think the audience would really like to hear about that. I found it very interesting.
Yeah, so basically, as I started practicing shooting 3 years ago, and it was in the closed shooting ranges, of course, and then I progressed to the practical shooting, which is the sport discipline, and there is the Practical Shooting Association of Serbia, which I'm a member of. So that's something that I find the great opportunity to be in the nature, totally disconnected, offline, no phones, no internet, no anything, and then just share some good vibes and energy with people who have similar interests and spend the day in nature every couple of weeks. So doing something you like. And that's also important. So you need to find something to get it as a whole after a working week.
Awesome. So Nemanja, could we then assume that during the Olympics in Tokyo, it was the shooting disciplines that were your most favorite?
Actually, yes. Unfortunately, practical shooting is not yet an Olympic sport. I'm crossing my fingers. There are some changes, but hopefully you will be seeing also the practical shooting squads from our country there on some of the next Olympic Games.
So you might end up in the Olympics as a contestant?
No, probably as a visitor.
Okay. Still, I think it's a very memorable experience. But then I understand also pole dancing was sort of being considered for putting it in the Olympics. And how are you with that? Do you perhaps go there as a contestant?
I would be a visitor there also.
Okay. Well, I was hoping we have an Olympic champion, a future Olympic champion, and then in 4 years from now, everybody on this live streaming would be able to say, "Hey, I know this guy. We heard him about the streaming and the cloud and the United. Oh my goodness! And look at him now. He's shooting the clay pigeons or moving targets. Is that what?
Moving target. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, Nemanja, it's sort of high expectations, no pressure.
Thank you very much. No pressure.
Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for sharing all of this practical takeaways from your 10 years practicing Agile in your company, and thank you for letting us getting some insights into the United Cloud.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here and to present what we found out worked for us. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome, Nemanja, and we'll be seeing you soon.